superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil. Kumintuntum Prekun.
It's another night of defeat for the Black Stars, but good evening, welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from Manu Sabata, Desa Wakanda, also live on TV3, Ghana on Facebook, and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Okonse. Tonight, in the wake of the Newtown building collapse, questions emerge about building regulations and supervision, prompting a search for answers from experts. This is not the first time we're having this. What is going to change this time around? What has to be done to ensure that this will be the last in a very long time to come? Stay with us. Also, fuel prices projected to rise from April 1 following an upward adjustment in a new floor price set by the National Petroleum Authority, NPA. The Chief Executive Officer, Godwin Eduji Tamaklo, will be speaking on this matter tonight. Stay with us. Tonight, Black Stars put up a fierce fight against Germany, but also fall short yet again as they lose 2-1. Well, there's been a lot of talk already, and the mountain calls for the coach, Otuado, to be sacked. Stay with us. We have a conversation. We have this and more, including some matters arising from the presidential dialogue with civil society organizations, CSOs, that took place this evening, around the same time when this friendly match was ongoing. The president has been speaking about the latest expose into the big push contracts by the Fourth Estate. He's instructed an investigation into it. Also, the president touched on LGBTQ plus and matters arising in this country in the wake of that decision by the Lincoln University to withdraw that honorary doctorate that they had planned to give him. Well, stay with us. We have all of these and more tonight. As always, you're an integral part of the conversation. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
Pupils of Accra Newtown Experimental 1A and B primary schools say the lack of adequate school desk has made it impossible for them to move into a newly renovated classroom block. This situation forced them to continue using an abandoned 3-story building which collapsed on Sunday, March 29. Some of the pupils revealed that the last time they studied in the new collapsed building was on Saturday, March 28, as they prepared for their final BEC examinations.
We are the Form 3s and then we are the ones sitting at the last place. So sometimes when it rains, you can even see that the water is coming out from like the wall. Sometimes I can touch my friend and be like, hey, since I see you, look at the wall. I'm sure one day this will collapse.
There is a lot of heat over there. That place and dust and the light is there is only one.
And the building too has been shaking?
Yeah, it's very weak.
I'm very scared when the baby is shaking.
Like you get very scared sometimes?
Yes.
How does it shake? Can you demonstrate?
Like when you touch it and it will be shaking.
Vice President Professor Nana Jane Opuku-Agyeman has visited the site of the building collapse that claimed 3 lives and left several others injured. Her visit to Accra Newtown was to assess the situation firsthand as she called for the strict enforcement of building regulations. She also visited survivors receiving treatment at the 37 Military Hospital, the Police Hospital and the University of Ghana Medical Center.
Who approved all of it?
It was 2012.
It doesn't matter when
Get fan,
it was done. If it is wrong, it is wrong.
The Accra High Court has told Namuan's lawyers that his evidence will be taken by electronic means after the embattled businessman didn't turn up in court due to ill health. His lawyers presented a medical note to the court showing the former Men's Code CEO must refrain from excessive physical exertion. The presiding judge noted that medical document did not restrict the accused person from continuing and ruled that the case will be continued virtually, with a video link to be provided to number 1 to continue with his evidence in chief. There were heated exchanges at the Public Accounts Committee when a former director of procurement for the Agric Ministry disclosed some party people hijacked warehouses after the 2024 elections, making the supply of rice difficult. An attempt by a member of the committee, Adam Agbana, to seek clarity caused a boiling moment, despite interventions by the Deputy Agric Minister and other committee members.
The woman was very, very clear.
What your deputy ranking has said. The answer is contradictory to what the deputy ranking.
Respectfully, young man, Honorable MP, please, your chairman has spoken. I think we should end it. You are not more party-like than your chairman who is here taking over the affairs of what we are doing. Respectfully.
The Finance Ministry says the country's import cover has increased to 5.8 months as of March this year. It adds that the government remains on track to achieve its target of 8.6 months of import cover. Thomas Nyako Ampim is the Deputy Finance Minister.
The program is to build an economic war chest to protect the economy against future shocks by raising gross international reserves to the equivalent of 8.6 months of import cover by the end of this year and 15 months of import cover by the end of 2028. This is an economy regaining balance. This is an economy back on its feet, rebuilding strength and preparing to run.
It's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook. And as always, proudly brought to you by Flamingo Paint, Simply Superior, Sasso Insecticide Spray and Qualcomm Tum Tum Preco. Coming up next on Ghana Tonight, President John Dramani Mahama engages civil society organizations in a presidential dialogue. And this was earlier this evening. He has called, in fact, the President John Dramani Mahama has directed his office to obtain the full detailed report of the Fourth Estate on its investigations into the Big Push contracts for study, with a firm instruction to the Ministry of Roads and Highways to equally present its response to the allegations for onward action. The President's comments come in the wake of the publication also alleging government is opting for sole source contract or single source contract in this instance for the road construction instead of competitive bidding in a number of the contracts that were captured in this the Fourth Estate expose. The President has been speaking on the matter at a meeting with civil society organizations at the Jubilee House earlier this evening. Take a look.
I encourage civil society organizations to actively engage with this legislative process, offer constructive inputs, and support public awareness when it is enacted. Moreover, I encourage you to collaborate with government to oversee public projects, monitor budget execution, and enhance social accountability mechanisms. Together, we can rebuild and strengthen public trust in our institutions. In this regard, I note the recent expose by the Fourth Estate on procurement processes related to the award of contracts under the Big Push program. While sole sourcing is legal under certain circumstances, under our current procurement law, we'd all agree that open, transparent tenders are always preferable for achieving competitive pricing and value for money. Although we've seen snippets of the investigation from the media, I have instructed my office to obtain the full detailed report from the Fourth Estate and to conduct a study of the various allegations presented in the report. We're also requesting the Ministry of Roads and Highways to present a detailed response to those allegations made therein in order to inform government's action on the matter. And it is precisely for such situations that I announced that government will introduce amendments to the Public Procurement Act to limit single sourcing in order to promote greater transparency and ensure proper value for money for the money we spend on projects. I've also requested the Minister of Finance to fast-track the setup of the Independent Value for Money Office, since the amendment to the procurement legislation will require that all single-source procurements be subject to rigorous value for money review. I remain of the conviction that single sourcing must be used as sparingly as possible and would consult with civil society on the new legislation we propose to use to restrict it as a method of procurement.
President earlier this evening on this the expose by the Fourth Estate. Let's go on to Zoom right now. Kweku Krobia Sante is Programs Manager, the Media Foundation for West Africa, and they're also the parent organization of the Fourth Estate. And Kweku is joining us on Zoom right now. Kweku, good evening.
Hi, Alfred. Good evening, if you can hear me.
I can hear you clearly. Thank you so much for connecting with us this evening. And this is the President's direct words on this. It's an encouragement for him to, as it were, limit. In fact, they're going to introduce some review, an amendment to the law to limit sole sourcing, to encourage greater transparency. That's number one. And also, he's asking for a full detail of your report. I mean, how does all of this strike you, first off?
Well, thank you very much, and my regards to your viewers. First of all, we want to thank the President for his leadership and also taking time to, speak on this. It underscores, his presence of mind on what is happening in the country, and also insisting that he still remain of the conviction that the use of sole sourcing should be one that should not be the norm, but an exception. I think that it is not always common for you to see the presidency decide, or the president himself deciding to take time to speak to investigations that journalists have done or media houses have produced, and so we are really grateful for his commentary. Secondly, we think that it invites the conversation further for all of us to attend to it. The Fourth Estate willingly accepts the President's invitation to submit the findings from our story of the report, and we are currently working on that. We're going to submit to him, and then we will hope to see what will come out from the investigation. He calls on the ministry to also respond to these allegations. We must emphasize that our interest and our focus at the Fourth Estate, has been to push for accountability and transparency, as we have always been doing, to emphasize the critical role of the media, as watchdogs, and to put it in practice, as we have been doing previously. Our stance has always been that the media should be at the forefront of pushing for accountability, should probe, should ask questions, and this is what we have been doing since we started this project about 5 years now, and we'll continue to keep on to doing this. So this has come as a very welcoming call and quite refreshing, especially given the back and forth that we're experiencing with some of the appointees, some assigns of the government who had come at us, calling us so many names here and there. We find it refreshing that the President, having listened to snipers, as he puts it, sees the substance in the argument, sees how the light it puts his government, the double standards, the outright hypocrisy, the concerns about capacity of those organizations, and the concerns about whether we are going to get value for money in the construction of these roads. And so we really welcome the president's call, and we are going to abide by it. But we must emphasize that we're going to keep our eyes on the ball, monitor the situation, and whatever comes out of it, will be advised accordingly.
And now, Kweku, there's this bit already, the president giving indication of what your expose has occasioned, because he references the fact that all of what you have done also brings to the fore the need to amend the law on sole sourcing to limit, sole sourcing to, as it were, bring some level of greater transparency as well. A good development, you'll say?
Yes, certainly. Certainly. Look, the story we have done has opened up the conversation further. Look, when the president was in opposition, these were calls he made. Some of his now ministers and appointees, even made further calls. Kudeta Blackwell, for instance, was on record to say they would even want to blot out the whole sole sourcing thing even from the Procurement Act. You see, and so the president called that we will really limit the use of sole sourcing. It's a good call. During the process of our story, what we're seeing from endorsement from the Public Procurement Authority and all those issues, from the justification issues that people were raising and stuff like that, I think this is a good call. Competitive tendering should be the norm. We should open it up, let the public see, let capable hands come to the board, come with their quotes, let us discuss, pick the best option for the country, and let's proceed from there. It should never be, the norm that sole sourcing, single sourcing is being attended to. So far, since we started our argument, since we started our expose, we have emphasized that none of these contracts has been given on competitive tendering, and not a single of the government appointees have been able to deny that. To a large extent, the arguments have been, to what extent have they given the contracts out on single source basis or sole source basis? But the emphatic claim that none of these contracts were given on competitive tendering, they've not been able to debunk it. So if the president is saying that, yes, this should be the phase that we should go, limit the presence of sole sourcing or single sourcing in our books, I think it's a welcoming call. We are open to it. We want to follow through to see what will be the end of this.
Kweku, appreciate you for this. Thank you. Thank you so much for connecting with us on this. The initial reaction of the Media Foundation for West Africa on the president's directive to them, that is the Media Foundation, the parent company of the Fourth Estate, to provide the presidency with a full report of their investigation or expose into this big push contracts and the sole sourcing matter, or the single sourcing of some of the contracts, quite a number of them as well. And then also the Ministry of Roads and Highways response as well to the issues raised in this particular publication by the Fourth Estate. Well, this is the NDC's position as captured in the 2024 manifesto of the party ahead of that election regarding the matter of sole sourcing. Page 6 of the NDC manifesto says, quote, enforce compliance with the public procurement law to stop the abuse of sole sourcing and other breaches. That's what's captured in the NDC manifesto. But then the president, John Dramani Mahama, during the 2026 State of the Nation address, just a little over a month ago, said, quote, Mr. Speaker, we are bringing legislation to this House to tighten our procurement processes by banning sole source contracts except in exceptional circumstances. Except in exceptional circumstances. So that's what the president stated. And that's why you hear the president talk about this moment and what has happened now giving enough reason and occasioned that speedy decision to review our laws to ensure that there's a limit to sole sourcing and to encourage greater transparency That's what I heard the president say earlier this evening during that engagement with civil society organization. Beyond this, the president has also been speaking about anti-LGBTQ plus and the matters arising. If you recall, just about a week ago, the Lincoln University cancelled a scheduled event to confer on him an honorary doctorate because of these matters with LGBT and Ghana's position on the LGBTQ plus and activities in this country. The president made a comment on that as well earlier this evening with the engagement with the CSOs. Take a look.
We are aware of ongoing national and international conversations around rights, freedoms, and social cohesion. Regarding LGBTQ plus issues, it remains a highly emotive and sensitive issue, even in the most advanced liberal democracies. I explained during my recent engagement with the World Affairs Council that it's not the most important issue we face as a nation. We're still grappling with the provisions of basic needs of education, healthcare, jobs, food, clothing, and shelter. Nevertheless, the private members' bill introduced in Parliament has sparked a complex and sensitive national conversation. Our position is guided by our Constitution, respect for human rights and dignity of all persons, and the need to preserve social cohesion. While there are strong and differing views within our society, we believe that these issues must be addressed through democratic processes, our core values, dialogue, and the rule of law. I'm also mindful of reactions from our international partners, including the recent developments such as Lincoln University's withdrawal of their honorary doctorate. These developments underscore the importance of continued engagement and mutual respect, and of situating our national decisions within our constitutional and cultural context. Ghana will continue to uphold its democratic values while engaging constructively with the international community. Civil society has also led in environmental protection, climate advocacy, and the fight against illegal mining. Government is intensifying efforts to combat galamsey, promote sustainable land and water use, and strengthen environmental.
You can find a full complement of this as well on TV3 Ghana on YouTube. But coming up next on Ghana Tonight, a new town building that collapsed yesterday has sparked tough questions on regulation and then also the fundamental question of who has to be held responsible to serve as a deterrent, and also a wake-up call for the persons who have to check to ensure that this does not happen again. Now, the pupils of Accra New Town Experimental 1A and B primary school say the lack of adequate school desks has made it impossible for them to move into a new renovated classroom block. Now, this situation forced them to continue using an abandoned three-story building which collapsed on Sunday. Contrary to the earlier reports that this was not being occupied, the students or the pupils we spoke to earlier gave indication that sometimes they have classes in this building that has collapsed. Now, the last time they studied in that now collapsed building was on Saturday, March 28th, as they are preparing for their final BECE exams. So this was just a day before this collapse that has led to, unfortunately, the death of some 3 worshippers, as far as we do know now, and quite a number of them that have been rescued. So on Saturday, these pupils that we're just going to show you said they studied in this building. Take a look.
No, we are using it.
You are still using it?
Yeah, because they have not even opened it. So you say we should wait for
They've not opened which one?
The new one.
They've not opened a new building?
Yeah, so they say we should learn over there. So we are learning over there and don't know what has happened. We are informed too.
Yeah. So anytime you go and sit down there, you are not able to learn well?
Yeah.
Why?
Because there is a lot of heat over there. That place and dust and heat. So yeah, and the light is there is only
and
one.
The building too has been shaking?
Yeah, it's very weak.
I'm very scared when the building is shaking.
Like you get very scared sometimes?
Yes.
How does it shake? Can you demonstrate?
Like when you touch it and it will be shaking.
You touch with your small tiny hands and the building gets to shake?
Yes.
When it was that bad?
Yes.
It makes you very scared then?
Yes.
You have the same thing to say?
Yes. Mostly we are the Form 3s and then we are the ones sitting at the last place. So sometimes when it rains, you can even see that the water is coming out from like the wall. Sometimes I can touch my friend and be like, hey, potential CEO, look at the wall. I'm sure one day this thing will collapse. Sometimes we'll be sitting there, we'll be praying.
You've been saying it.
Yes.
I think you are a prophetess already.
Sometimes the teacher will be teaching, but we'll be praying like, Charlie, let's pray, because the way this thing is going, sometimes to the heat there, and even when people are praying, they are playing at the top and they are running, you can feel that something is shaking. So sometimes I'll tell the teacher I'm going to the washroom, then I'll go and stand outside, then I'll be like, hey God, please help us. So
instead of you to be focusing on learning, you are focusing your mind on.
You have to start praying, say your last prayers.
Yeah, they were also praying. The building still collapsed anyway.
Yes, but we thank God because we came to classes on Saturday and then we left. So Sunday, and I heard that they said the building have collapsed.
You came on class on
Saturday.
Saturday, you were in that building?
Yes.
The other buildings that you've been learning in, how is it like?
That one today, I think they said they are arranging that place. So it's left with small, then they will finish the building.
You think they should come and open a new building for you guys?
Yes.
Pardon?
We don't have
No, wait, you said you think they should come and open a new place for you?
Yes, please, because we don't have desks. Now the building has collapsed. We don't even have desks where we can sit. So I think the government should bring us desks where we can sit, because this desk is no good. Because we don't have desks.
Yes.
There are no desks in all the classrooms?
Yes. All of the desks are in the
We're
room.
in that story building.
Yes.
All the desks were packed in that story building?
Yes, please. So we don't have desks.
Well, so these are some pupils and students here at Accra Newtown that narrating to us how and what they've been saying, what they've been seeing over the past few years.
If you recall, when this incident happened, there was a narrative that this particular building was not in use as a classroom. The pupils are telling us the reality and something contrary to what had been told us earlier. So this was used, the last time they used this building that has collapsed was Saturday the 28th, before this Sunday. There's a new building that's there, which has been built. It's not been opened as yet, so they can't even use it. But the father of one of the deceased, a young lady amongst the three deceased persons, couldn't control his tears when the lifeless body of his daughter was pulled out of the debris and the rubble earlier in the evening yesterday. Take a look. Engineer Muhammad Abdullahi is joining us right now on Zoom for a conversation on this particular development. Engineer, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
Well, good evening.
Now, the last time we spoke, you made a profound statement, which it's just a reawakening, because you stated then, this was a little over a month ago, that a lot of the buildings in Accra are just surviving by the grace of God, but it should not be the case. I mean, there are people who are paid to ensure that the right thing is done. But before we even get into the details, there's a narrative that was put out on Sunday after this incident that this building was not in use by the pupils. Now, the pupils are telling us that they used this building the Saturday before the Sunday it collapsed, and they've been sharing their experiences with us. Even though there's a new building that has been constructed, a new school block that has been constructed, they are waiting for someone to come and open it. So they're still using this old one. Engineer.
Good evening to your cherished viewers. I'm sure we are waiting for another, commissioning. You know, Ghanaians and how we like to be commissioning, and amidst the pomp and pageantry that will be accompanied with that commissioning. So we don't care about the risk that we put our kids in. It's so pathetic that we're having these conflicting reports. And we are so lucky that even though some lives have been lost, would have had a lot of disaster if the kids were actually in the structures, either learning, preparing for their exams, and such a devastating calamity would have befall the country. So in as much as we have lost some lives, we should still be thankful to the Creator that we didn't meet or we didn't experience that huge national disaster that would have put the whole country in a state of grief. So we should be grateful at all costs, at all times. We should be grateful. Whatever happens, we should be grateful to the Creator. But that leaves a lot of questions unanswered. Why officialdom would be giving us information such as this? We should be very mindful that people are watching. Whatever you do, another person is watching. There's an eagle eye which is just behind, observing whatever you handle or whatever you try to hide from the public view. Now cameras are everywhere. People are having their phones, very sophisticated phones, and they keep records of whatever happens in real time. So we should be very mindful that we are not living in the Stone Age where information was so difficult to come by. So that is by way of information to whoever is telling all those informations.
Engineer, we just went back into time and historically, to the extent that this is not the first time something of sort has happened, and quickly, at least from 2023, when the Melcom shop collapsed in 2012, it led to some reforms in our laws. If you recall, 6 years on, sometime in 2018, we saw a review of the building code and others. But then we went back at least between 2022 and 2026. This is what we found out. This English Yamanfro area, there was a house that collapsed after heavy rains. 2 children died, if you recall. And then in Kumasi as well, there was a collapse of a wall, in fact, just around the building that fell on 2 people who died. 1 person got injured. And then last year, 2 buildings collapsed in Cape Coast in a week, killing 3 in those 2 instances. Then Adenta here, Nanakrom, if you recall, this is Nanakrom 1. Yes, the 3-story building that collapsed, 1 person died, Nanakrom. Then we're talking about just last year, the Roman Ridge here, that building that was under construction, that collapsed, was said to be an apartment. About 14 workers were trapped. Several of them got injured. Then we're talking about this situation today, that was yesterday, this building that collapsed, leading to the death of 3 people, 2 females, 1 male, 20 people recovering. Who should be held responsible for this? Because, when this happens, we all get emotional. We are talking about this, officialdom will visit and then, but somebody should be answering questions for this. That's happened too many times.
One happened in the Eastern region where a 6-story building, a church building collapsed, I think about 6 years ago.
Yes.
So what are the findings and what are the punitive measures which are meted out to the people who are found after the investigation has been conducted? What happens to engineers or the assembly officials who slept on their duty and they allowed some of these things to happen? There is always a process that I've told you over and over again. If I want to make this statement that a lot of buildings are standing by the grace of God in 2019, I had a lot of people who called me behind the scene to check their buildings, and lo and behold, some buildings that we found, in fact, there was a structure that we actually went to investigate around the airports. And that structure, the highest, in fact, the required strength of the concrete was supposed to be 30 kilograms per meter squared. The highest we had in 25 columns. Out of the 25 columns, one of them had only 17. The rest were around 13 and 11. That is how devastating my message helped one of the professors. In fact, he's a lawyer. I don't want to mention the name. So the process is always the same. The assembly give you the permit. You start your construction. Periodically, they move to check your building. They have what we call the certificate of cohabitation. And then when you have finalized or the building has been completed, that certificate is issued by the assembly. In this one, for instance, I have seen a multifaceted number of buildings in Accra where the purpose is being altered every now and then. That is one of the things that we are not looking at. And when you have about a 4-story building where maybe the ground floor is an apartment, the second floor is an apartment, and suddenly the 3rd and 4th floor, which is supposed to be an apartment, changes to be a warehouse or storage area, the life load increases beyond even the dead load weight. The dead load is the slab. a concrete slab, which is already there because that is the self-load that is sitting on the columns. Now, the apartment we have about maybe 5 family members or 6 or 7. Now, when you change the purpose of the building and you use it for another facility or another intended purpose, it's only proper that the new act, this is a new act, the National Building Regulation, LI 2465. This was passed in 2022. When you look at the Regulation 79, it says that a structure appraiser of an existing building shall be carried out to determine the building capacity and coping with the changes that have been implemented. So let's say, in paraphrasing it, when the building changes its purpose, the assembly would now have to revisit the document that they issued in terms of the permit. That is the building still intended for its same purpose? If it has changed, is there any other overbearing load that is coming to the building is going to experience as a load being exerted additional to the initial one? When this is done, automatically a structural engineer would have to review the design. If it needs to be retrofitted, it has to be retrofitted, and then the necessary adjustments are done before construction continues. But now the thing is that, Alfred, you have so much money, you have done two-story building, and then you decide, and now you don't have any money again, and your mama picks it up, say, oh, I bought the building for me, I want to do 2 or 3 more structures, story buildings ahead of the one you have completed.
Right.
Who revised this design? And I've seen a lot of that in Accra because of the commercial viability of our structures dotted along our highways, along our internal roads, the urban roads within our communities. Look at what is changing around your area. See apartment, ground, first floor, second floor, having the same status quo. See the 3rd and 4th floors changing into warehouses and then what do you call it? Studios.
But you see, engineer,
when that happens,
yes.
When that happens, when that happens, you have actually distorted the whole scheme of the structure, and that is where the potential danger happens, because you have lifted the whole load to the top, so the columns may not be able to bear the load that are exerting on the structure.
Engineer, you see, I'm going to put this picture on the screen. This is the building before it's collapsed. Look, I mean, who in the assembly, the district assembly, would watch and still allow children to still have classes in this place? And even the school authorities themselves should not be even answering questions right now, because looking on to have children study in this building. And that's what I'm talking about, where culpability or responsibility, the burden of this particular issue should lie. I mean, even before we talk about the ministry or the governmental level, there are people at the local assembly. Even the school, the school heads were supposed to be answering questions. How do you watch to have children study in this building? How, engineer?
I think I heard this today, that the assembly had already gone in to do what we call the structural integrity of this structure, this building, and they've already flagged it that it's not fit for purpose, and they were preparing to bring the building down. There's something we call the time ticking bomb and the time T. You may have assessed a structure that this building is likely to come down, but you wouldn't know the exact time that the structure would come down. Immediately, you have identified that this structure is likely to come down. You flag the whole area, no go area, not fit for purpose. What were they waiting for? If all what I'm hearing is true, that they have actually considered the building to come down, what was the dilly-dallying situation? What were they waiting for? Looking for funds? If you are looking for funds to come and address the situation, at least the immediate thing you have done was to cordon off the place and then prevent people from having access to that structure. This will make provision to come and bring this, because when you're about to bring this building down, there are other environmental considerations. How is it going to fall down? What is the debris? What is the environmental impact assessment going to be done? How is it going to affect negatively the society, the environment within which the building is situated? And so the engineers will come in assess how to bring it down. They can have the ball effect where they drop a certain ball. Most of the military have been doing that on behalf of AMA and other. They bring their balls and then they leave the ball at a certain speed and they come and they crash the building so that the bullet will be collected in one particular area. So this is where the assessment, if what I'm picking allegedly is true, then this where the process they were supposed to have been taken up whilst they cordon off the place to prevent anybody from having access to the building, because the time taking devastation, you wouldn't know the exact time that the building would have to come down. So this is something that we have to ensure that we run it across all the local assemblies dotted across the country, not necessarily Accra. And it's so disheartening that it's like a deja vu. These things are happening one time too many, and Alfred with his passion will call me and will come and speak about it, and it dies as usual. It will come, this matter, let's pick it and see whether in the next 1 month we will not get this thing coming down, subside, as if nothing ever happened. People, lives were not lost, and the business as usual. We come in and start talking about any other thing because the floods are coming. And we're going to have a compounded effect with the floods and some of these structures that are sitting in Accra. And I still emphasize the same thing again, that a lot of buildings in Accra or the capital or across the country are only standing, are surviving by the grace of God. And if we do not attach our engineering abilities and then enforcement, where the assemblies will not be very, brutal. They go in radically and ensure that every structure with a question mark is actually halted, and then the due procedure is adhered to before issuing approval for buildings. And the last thing, a lot of foreign companies who are in Ghana, when they want to apply and get any edifice in Ghana, they approach some of us to run the integrity analysis for them before they even purchase a building. That must span across every Ghanaian who want to put up a building or want to take a building in the country.
Perfect. Engineer Muhammad Abdullah, I appreciate you and your expertise on this particular issue. Thank you so much for spending some time with us tonight, as always. But coming up next, and that's going to be after this quick break, price of petroleum products at the pump set to rise again as the National Petroleum Authority has set a new floor price for the diesel and petrol. 17 cities, 10 pesos, 13 cities, 30 pesos. Well, the Chief Executive Officer of the National Petroleum Authority, Godwin Edujitamaklo, has been giving some more details as to why this pricing and what could have been the case if the city was not stable. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back. A new price floor set by the National Petroleum Authority will see diesel selling at a minimum of 17 cedis 10 pesos, petrol 13 cedis 30 pesos, and then LPG just a little above 10 cedis 70 pesos per kilogram. Now, the CEO of the National Petroleum Authority, Gordon Judicial, has been explaining to us specific one on the availability of diesel and petrol. That's number one. And then what has led to this pricing that we're seeing, it was going to go up in the first pricing window for the month of April, beginning in the next couple of days. Take a look.
Remember that the principal, work of the authority is to ensure our energy security. What we've been trying to do from the time the conflict broke out, that's the 28th of February till now, which is almost past a month, is to keep the stock level within the country at, very sufficient level to power economic activities in the country. And let me say, under the watch of my able sector minister, the Honorable John Abdullahi Janapo, we've maintained sufficient stock level up to now. In fact, by close of day, today, which is the 30th of March, we have for diesel, almost 7 weeks of cover, starting from today. And that's very significant. Significant. For petrol, we have about 6 weeks of cover. What it means is that we have enough cover to move us beyond April. Now, what is even important or instructive is that these stock levels, it is not like we've closed, So that after 6-7 weeks, there are more coming. In fact, currently, we have 2 vessels at Anchorage. One for AGO, one for diesel and one for petrol. 42,000 metric ton, and that also comes to add. From now to the 9th of April, we have confirmed 7 vessels coming, and in fact, I have the details of the 7 vessels. Thankfully, we have the Lake and Advisory Committee, so periodically we meet to look at the analysis in terms of what confirmed vessels and what have you. And I can tell you, we have about 7 vessels that from April the 1st to the 9th would all be berthing and discharging petroleum products for the country. So I can assure our citizens that in terms of supply availability and reliability, the country for now is safe. However, the situation as you rightly pointed out, in the Middle East provides a scenario for cautious optimism. If you look at the parties involved, Israel, US, and Iran, for that matter, you notice that at least the outlook appears a bit positive if you compare to the middle of March. If you listen to some of the parties, it does appear that there are some behind the scene conversation, which was not a possibility in the middle of March.
But then you referenced the volumes at sea. I just want us to get the specifics. If you could just tell us the specific volumes at sea beyond the 6 weeks and the 7 weeks of diesel and petrol that you talked about.
These are the numbers I'm seeing per my latest update that I receive. So we have 2 currently at the CBM. We have 2 to 6 scheduled for the jetty. And now if you look at the numbers, and I'm just, we have 1, I don't want to mention the name, carrying 43,000 metric ton. We have another one doing 37,000 metric ton. We have another one doing 30,000 metric ton. We have another one doing 27,000 metric ton. We have 10,000 metric ton and 10,000 metric ton. So if you put all of these together, and these are vessels at anchorage, as at the 30th of March 2026. And that's very significant. And this is outside the 7 and 6 weeks cover that I've already given you the indication. What we have also confirmed that from 31st March, that's tomorrow, to the 9th of April, we have one that will be doing 42,000 metric ton. Another one will be doing 42,000 metric ton. Another one is doing 42,000 metric ton. So we have 3 vessels for AGO only, 42, 42, 42, 3 from now to the 9th of April. That's huge. Now for petrol, from now to the 9th of, that's from 31st to 9th of June, we have 37,000 metric ton, 37,000 metric ton, 37,000 metric ton. That makes the 6 vessels all confirmed for the 9th of April.
Beyond the availability now is an issue of pricing, and that's what you've touched on a few times. But as I indicated earlier, we're expecting diesel to sell not more than 17 cedis, 10 pesos. Obviously, some of the OMCs may sell lower because of their own competitive, advantage they want to get. And then petrol is expected to sell 13 cedis, 30 pesos. I mean, it's gone up, obviously, but tell us a bit more about, this pricing that you have just put out and why this is probably the best situation we could have had in the midst of what is happening globally.
So, as you read, we took over. At the time, fuel wasn't in the best of shape. Now, remember that by the 28th of February, when the conflict started, we're doing a barrel of crude at almost $66, $67 per barrel. Now today, my last check is almost $120, $119. That's almost twice the amount. But the saving grace that we've had within this period has been the exchange rates. The exchange rate impact has basically mitigated, damping the full impact that would have been seen at the pump. So, and when I say this, I'm saying that if the exchange rates were to be doing 17 Ghana cedis, say, to $1, which we recorded before, today, instead of 17 being the floor price may be doing almost 23 Ghana cedis. That would be huge. And so that fuel itself may be selling within 25, 26, 27 Ghana cedis. What has kept the numbers, even at this rate, is the excellent work that has been done by the managers of the economy in keeping the currency at this level. The trading levels of the Ghana cedi has absorbed the full impact of $120. That's very significant. So that if today the Ghana cedi were to be at 17 Ghana to $1, and we are doing $120 for a barrel, we will be selling it at the pump at 30 Ghana cedis per liter. That's huge. And so we are keeping our eyes very focused on these numbers. And that is why, for me, it's a great, in the midst of all the uncertainty, the exchange rate had provided a more predictable platform for me, because then I know in the next months the Ghana cedi will remain where it is, and once it has remained so, it gives us a certain comfort in the midst of all the uncertainty that we won't get to the point where we will be selling petrol at 30 Ghana cedi, which should have been the case looking at where we were coming from. In fact, if you recall, I think somewhere 2022, November, I think November 1st, the date is quite familiar, November 1st, 2022, we were selling a liter of diesel for 23 Ghana cedis in this country. At that time, crude prices was within the ranges of $70, $72, maximum $74. But because the exchange rate at that time went as far as 17.20, so you needed 17 cedis, 20 pesos to get $1. So whereas crude was going for 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, it took a liter of fuel to 23 Ghana cedis by Tuesday, 1st November 2022. Well, I mean, our outlook relative to the conflict is one of cautious optimism that once things stabilizes, we'll go back to the pre-February 28th.
That's Godwin Eduji Tamaklo, the Chief Executive Officer of the National Petroleum Authority. They're giving details of the availability in terms of the quantum of both diesel, petrol that we have, and what has influenced this pricing as we're seeing now, and how the coming weeks will look like. You'll find more of this on 3news.com. There's more news as well there on 3news.com and TV3 Ghana on Facebook. Join the New Day team tomorrow morning. No Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. I am Alfred Akansi. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by Flamingo Paint, superior.